morning, I'm Haryanto Dima. Now we want to bring you breaking news out of Russia this morning. Russian news agency IFAX reporting that President Vladimir Putin has announced a military operation in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region, saying it aims to protect people and that if there is any foreign interference, Russia will react immediately. Now, as we monitor comments out of Moscow, what we're seeing here is a live picture from Maidan Square in the center of Ukraine's capital, Kiev. It's just over 5:30 in the morning over at Kiev. Business seems to be going on as usual, no disruptions here. Mr. Putin saying the circumstances demand decisive action from Russia. The country cannot tolerate threats coming from Ukraine. He called on Ukraine military to lay down its arms. Just 2 days ago, Mr. Putin ordered Russian troops to deploy on what he called a peacekeeping operation in the breakaway areas of Donetsk and Luhansk. The two regions are home to Russian-backed rebels who have been fighting Ukrainian forces since 2014. Over in New York, there is a live session of the United Nations Security Council right now. Now, members are preparing to put forward a draft resolution on Ukraine that will call out Russia over its actions towards its neighbors. But according to a Security Council diplomat, the move is all but certain to fail. It will not be adopted by the 15-member council as Russia is a veto power, along with the United States, France, Britain and China. But it gives Washington and allies a chance to show that Moscow is internationally isolated over its actions on Ukraine. Global Affairs correspondent Jonathan Eyal joins me now from London. Jonathan, good morning. 2 days ago, when Mr. Putin ordered troops into the two separatist regions, he said it was a peacekeeping operation. Now, he's calling it a military operation. What does the change of stance mean?
Well, ostensibly, the justification that the Russian president has given is that this is a special military operation, as he put it, a limited operation supposedly to protect the enclaves which are home to Russian-speaking rebels. But in fact, in the same speech this morning where the Russian president has justified his operation, it became very clear that the mission is much larger. As you've mentioned a second ago, he is calling on the Ukrainian military to lay down its arms. He's talking about a complete demilitarization of Ukraine. And in the last few minutes, we've had reports of cruise missile attacks around the Ukrainian capital of Kiev and apparent attacks at various airports throughout the country. So I think it's safe to say that this was just a justification that from Monday allowed Mr. Putin to roll the military campaign that clearly was prepared before and probably involves about 200,000 troops.
So, Jonathan, that said, what could happen from this point?
Well, literally almost anything can happen. I mean, clearly what the Russian government is aiming at is regime change in Ukraine. It is talking about a variety of measures that it would take. It is talking about a so-called fascist government in Ukraine that has to be changed. It is talking about demilitarizing and not tolerating any armed forces in Ukraine. So almost anything can happen. I think the real question is how much of a resistance are the Ukrainian forces likely to give, and how big the operation that the Russians are contemplating really is. If we believe American intelligence, and let's face it, American intelligence up to now was actually very accurate in predicting what the Russians would do. If we believe the Americans, then what we're likely to see is a massive onslaught that may hit quite a large number of civilians. This is a big country, over 40 million people, and some of the cities, like the capital of Kiev, is almost 3 million people. Any military action there would result in huge bloodshed.
Mr. Putin said Russia will react immediately to any foreign interference, Jonathan, and that the responsibility of any bloodshed will be on the Ukrainian regime. Jonathan, what's your take on his strategy?
Well, I think that this is very clear, a warning to Western governments not to consider any military interference in the current fighting. In between the lines, he said, let me be very clear, and I hope that I am well understood. That is the nearest he came to suggesting that Russia is, of course, a major nuclear power, and whoever touches them can suffer all the consequences. We should also remember that only a week ago, Mr. Putin rather theatrically presided over a nuclear military exercise intended precisely to remind us that basically he has Ukraine under control and nobody else would risk a much bigger confrontation with a nuclear-armed Russia.
Jonathan, thank you for your perspectives. Jonathan Eyal, our Global Affairs correspondent. Now, we also want to bring you a statement from US President Joe Biden on what he calls Russia's unprovoked and unjustified attack on Ukraine. Mr. Biden tweeting, "The prayers of the world are with the people of Ukraine tonight as they suffer an unprovoked and an unjustified attack by Russian military forces." President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. Visit straitstimes.com for more developments in Ukraine with the breaking news and analysis, including the reaction in the financial markets where oil prices are surging and shares are falling. Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.